Happy morning, Tashi Dale. Namaskaram. As we begin this morning, welcome to Force of Wisdom class, Buddhist Psychology 101, Consciousness in All Its Beauty. Today is the last class of this series of teachings. Today's class will be focusing on how to know when perceptions lie. My name is Norbu. Before we begin, I will make a small request that everyone please turn your cameras on. If possible, this will help the teacher connect with all of you, and will improve the learning experience. And also, I would kindly request that you mute your microphones also, so the teacher can speak clearly for all of us. For those who are returning, you already know the Force of Wisdom, but for anyone who is new, I'll just introduce you to the monastery briefly. Force of Wisdom is a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization that has founded to support and foster a monastic community who can dedicate themselves to a full contemplative life and educate and inspire people of all cultures and backgrounds to create a peace and happiness within themselves and in the world. It is located in the state of Connecticut in the Northeastern United States. I'm excited to announce that next week, there will be another series of 8-week classes at the same time. This will focus on psychology for training the mind, where we will go through the reflections on developing resilience, fortitude, and patience using the Bodhicharya Avatara Guide for the Bodhisattva Way of Life by Bodhisattva Shantideva. As always, you're welcome to support Force of Wisdom classes with a donation. All activities are 100% supported by students like you. I will be posting all the slides from the 8 classes shortly, and also the donation page. Thank you so much for your attention, and I will turn it over to our venerable, wonderful teacher, Pooja Dabral, Professor of Buddhist Studies at Nalanda University in Bihar, India. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tenzin Nobula, and Tashi the Lake to everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, everybody can hear me? Melinda La can also hear me? Okay, very good. Thank you so much. So as Norbula said, it's the last session of the first series, and it was more kind of an introductory course to give some introductory idea and overview of the vastness of the depth of the Buddhist psychology, particularly the philosophy of the mind, its nature, classification, how Buddha taught in different sutras, and also then later Nalanda masters, they commented upon it in their treatises, and of course contemporary writers and also great masters from Tibet and China and other countries, they have written further explanations of these treatises. So the first series is always like we say, it's a trailer to a movie. So movie is still there, which will be the second series where we go deeper taking this foundation. So it will be very good if those who have already done this foundational series, they join. And of course new students will also feel very happy because the text is new, and the concept will be taught by the teachers. You have wonderful teachers like Venerable Doniola and also Geshimala. So they'll be teaching these foundational topics again on the basis of a very important text, Bodhicharya Avatar, again a great Nalanda master from 8th century AD. And the text name in English is A Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life. So in simple term, if somebody wants to attain infinite happiness for oneself and all sentient beings, if somebody has this goal that, okay, I want no suffering at all and I want all the happiness, the happiness which never transforms into suffering, a lasting happiness, peace of life, then what should I be doing? So that with that motivation, if you want, then it's a guide, a stepwise guide to that goal, which we technically known as a nirvana and Buddhahood. So this is a very precious text, and many great teachers also use this text as a guide for day-to-day activities while going deeper into the philosophy, psychology, and the practice. So this will be a wonderful series after this. So thank you, Nobula, for coordinating. And should we start with some setting a motivation?
Yes, indeed, Venerable.
Okay, so I'll share the PPT. Let me know if you can see that on the screen. Can you see that on the screen now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, let me just go to the slide for today's session. And I have already uploaded the slides to the Google Drive link for Forest of Wisdom in case somebody has missed to receive it. Okay, so start from next one. This. Okay, so let's read the words from Acharya Dignak's text, Pramana Samuchaya, the text used by great scholars to go deeper into the study of logic and epistemology. So what is the Buddhist exposition of logic and epistemology? So the great master Acharya Dignac, also revered as father of Buddhist logic, wrote a wonderful text, Pramana Samuchaya, in which the opening verse, he summarizes the entire journey of Prince Siddhartha transforming into an enlightened being through 4 steps. So this we will read. The one who has transformed into the valid one, motivated by altruism to benefit sentient beings, the teacher, Sugata, and protector, to you I make prostrations. The one who has transformed into the valid one, motivated by altruism to benefit sentient beings, the teacher, Sugata, and protector, to you I make prostrations. The one who has transformed into the valid one, motivated by altruism to benefit sentient beings, the teacher, Sugata, and protector, to you I make prostrations. And if somebody learning Sanskrit or knows Sanskrit, I'll read the words in Sanskrit from the text. The Acharya Dignac wrote it in Sanskrit. Pramana bhutaye jagat hiteshine pranamya shakhe sugataye taine. And the next we will recite the Heart Sutra mantra. So this is very precious mantra. In fact, this is the direct teaching of the Buddha. Heart Sutra is actually has been taught by Buddha here in Rajgir, where our university is. And then when Buddha taught the Pragya Paramita, meaning when Buddha taught the wisdom, particularly wisdom of emptiness, he taught many sutra in Rajgir. There is a place called Vulture's Peak, where it's just 2 hours away from the place of enlightenment where Buddha got enlightened. So Buddha got enlightened in Bodh Gaya under the Bodhi tree. So from there, in cab or by your car, it will take 2 hours to reach one place known as Vulture's Peak, Gridgud, and there Buddha taught many sutras on wisdom of emptiness, the final panacea to remove all our fears, pain, anxiety, and stress of life, and finally to attain the goal of liberation from all the fears of life, and also to benefit others by attaining the final goal of infinite happiness known as enlightenment. This wisdom is the if we can say, the Buddha Shakyamuni is coming on this earth. Besides the universal love and compassion, what is his legacy? We can very safely say it's wisdom of emptiness. So this Buddha taught as a part of the sutras, direct words of the Buddhas, known as Pragya Paramita Sutras, the sutras on the perfection of wisdom. So one of those sutras is Heart Sutra, Pragya Paramita Hridaya Sutra. It's like the essence or heart of all the perfection of wisdom sutras. And in that one sutra, Buddha said this mantra. This mantra was actually said by Arya Avalokiteshvara and then endorsed by Buddha Shakyamuni at the end of the conversation happening there. So this is considered extremely precious for this, not just because it is, coming from a Buddhist text, but because this we should learn later in the coming series, that how this sutra represents the 5 paths to enlightenment. So if you see, there are words gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhi swaha, right? Let me repeat it. Gate, paragate, parasangate, bodhi swaha. So this is how, if you read, there are five words, and these 5 words represent the 5 paths to enlightenment: path of accumulation, path of preparation, path of seeing, path of meditation, and path of normal learning. In Sanskrit, Sambhar marg, Prayog marg, Darshan marg, Bhavana marg, and Aseksha marg. So this is very important to learn. It's like the blueprint of, finally, if you want the lasting happiness, not a happiness which comes today and then tomorrow again changes into depression. not that kind of happiness. If you are somebody who wants to attain a very lasting peace and happiness, not only for yourself but all your near and dear ones and all sentient beings, then these 5 paths are the paths to that goal. So then how, when you recite these mantras, is a constant reminder for us that okay, I have to study what these 5 paths are, and I must know how these 5 paths teaches the practices which will take me to the state of fearlessness, technically known as nirvana, and a state of infinite happiness, technically we can call Buddhahood or enlightenment. So this mantra, whenever we recite, is a constant reminder for that. So if we know this information and then recite the mantra, the benefits are immense. Why? Because then even by reciting the mantra, you're connecting yourself with the understanding that okay, I need to grow, I need to grow, I need to learn what is, if, because Buddha said there is suffering, there is a cause of suffering, and there is cessation of suffering, and finally there is a path to the cessation of suffering. These are the 4 noble truths, right? So it's not just there is suffering, because suffering comes from its respective causes, then these causes have their cessation also. So there is a possibility to attain the cessation, end of the suffering also. So to do that, what should I be doing? All those practices are being discussed as a part of the 5 paths to enlightenment. So therefore, it's a very precious mantra. In fact, it is also said that if you recite it on behalf of somebody who is sick in your family, or who is going through some challenges and difficulties, this mantra has a very it's great power to help in those situations also. And it's not just a blind faith, to be very honest, because if you see, the content of the mantra is how to remove your fears through engaging in wisdom and universal compassion, finally, right? Through accumulation of wisdom of emptiness and accumulation of the love and affection, universal compassion for all sentient beings, how to eliminate all your fears of life. So what is all the obstacle challenges? These are the fears, right? So if you can engage in something which can remove your fears altogether, that is the meaning of warding off all the obstacles. So therefore, even in traditions where it is said that you recite these mantras to remove your obstacles, so if you really know the meaning of the mantra, you will not say it's just a blind faith, but it's coming out of the logic that because this mantra teaches the path to enlightenment through practice of the wisdom and universal love and compassion, therefore any obstacle that arises because of ignorance and selfishness can be taken care of. So therefore, when you recite this mantra, it is said it has a great power to connect you to this wisdom and universal compassion, the real source of happiness and infinite care for all sentient beings. So let's recite this very precious mantra together 3 times. Gate gate paragate parasangate bodhi swaha. Gate gate paragate parasangate bodhi swaha. Gate gate paragate parasangate bodhi swaha. Okay. If I have to translate it literally in English, it's like go beyond, go utterly beyond, and establish your enlightenment. In other words, go to the path of accumulation, preparation, seeing, meditation, and reach the path of no more learning, where you accomplish your goal of full awakening. Bodhi means full awakening, awakening from the sleep of ignorance, which creates pain and anxieties. Okay, now next we will recite the words from Dhammapad, which will summarize the purpose of this series, where Buddha said, mind is the direct word of the Buddha, where Buddha said, mind is the chief and precedes them all. If with impure mind one acts or speaks, miseries follows like a cart following the ox. Mind is chief and precedes them all. If with pure mind one acts or speaks, happiness follows like a shadow that never leaves. And finally, I also like to read this to everyone, where it's a very beautiful sutra. Again, the direct words of the Buddha. It's Dhamma Sangati Sutra. So here Buddha taught wisdom, all the Pragya Paramita Sutras, they teach the wisdom side of the path explicitly, and implicitly, of course, there is a teaching on the universal love and compassion and path. But in this sutra, Buddha taught something very, very beautiful, that okay, finally there is a, Buddha asked his disciples a question, that okay, the bodhisattva means the beings who wants to attain enlightenment for the welfare of all sentient beings. Let me repeat it. Who is a bodhisattva? Bodhi means awakening. Sattva in Sanskrit means being, person. So somebody who aspires to attain awakening, somebody who aspires to attain awakening for the welfare of all sentient beings, like Prince Siddhartha did, right? So Prince Siddhartha, he attained awakening, or he attained Buddhahood, enlightenment for the welfare of all sentient beings. So when you are on the learning stage, you are a bodhisattva, right? You are a bodhisattva. So then Buddha said, he asked a question to his disciple, that what should a bodhisattvas should not learn many teachings. If bodhisattva grasp and know one teaching, they will have all the Buddha's teaching in the palm of their hand. So in other words, then Buddha asked his disciple, what is that one thing? So Buddha is saying that if somebody wants to attain full awakening, enlightenment for the welfare of all sentient beings, to benefit, to guide everybody out of the pain of samsara, out of the pains, anxieties and stress, what they should be doing, what is that one thing they should practice, which will make sure that all the other teachings that I taught also come to them. So what is that one thing? And then Buddha himself answered, it is great compassion. Let me repeat it. Then Buddha himself answered, it is great compassion. In Sanskrit, Mahakaruna. And what is that? A mind, Mahakaruna or great compassion is defined as a mind which wishes all sentient beings to be freed of suffering and the causes of suffering. So there it's a very good, information for us, that finally, not that, okay, what Buddha is saying, that okay, somebody who wants to attain the highest state of perfection, means a state of lasting peace and happiness for the sake of oneself and all sentient beings, that person, what that person should be focusing on, what that person should meditate on, what that person should emphasize, which will guarantee, which will make sure that all other teachings are also coming to that person, meaning he will also look for other teachings like wisdom, patience, enthusiasm, perseverance, the practice of generosity. All other teachings will also make sense to that person. What is that one thing that person should emphasize? So then Buddha very clearly mentioned, it is great compassion, Mahakaruna. That compassion not just limited to, one's family. Of course, we have to start from the charity begins at home, right? If we cannot be compassionate towards our family member, be it our own parents, our children, our friends, neighbor, spouse, sister, brother, if we cannot be compassionate to them, then becoming compassionate to neighbors and then strangers and difficult people, it's just a joke. So therefore charity begins at home, but we have the potential to expand this mind of love and affection to all sentient beings. This is the potential that we have. And then once you practice this potential, when you try to manifest that potential, of course you will feel infinite freedom. Why freedom? Because if you see what is selfishness, your mind is focused on yourself all the time. And because your mind is focused on yourself all the time, this self all the time, then any small thing happens to this self. Even if somebody says that, oh, I think you have gained weight, and you have gained only 1 kg, and that makes you go into stress, that okay, oh, I gained weight, because your focus is just you, right? And then if somebody says, oh, you are looking so, although you work so hard, but you're not improving at all. So even one sentence of somebody can your mind go into depression, or your mind can be agitated, or it can feel stress. Your whole night is just thinking about this. You forget how many difficulties are there in the world, and how people are living on the street, and some people, they don't have even something to eat, forget about gaining weight or losing weight, right? So because the mind is focused on just this self, even a very small tiny comment can make you go into miseries. Whereas with the practice of the great compassion, your mind will expand. When the mind expands, you feel lightness. And there is a psychology behind it, right? Now we have learned the 5 omnipresent mental factor, that how when your discernment changes, then the feeling changes. right? How, for example, let's say when you are by yourself, just with your, in your family, and then, at your workplace, you have a very difficult boss, always giving you work with immediate deadlines, and you are, overstressed, overworked, overloaded with everything. And then when you come back home, like around 8 p.m. in the night, in the evening, then you with your family members, like your brother, sister, your mother, or your father, or for that matter your spouse or your friend, whoever you feel comfortable with, and you go back to that person, and then you feel lightness. Why this lightness is coming? Because your mind is expanding. In workplace, it just focusing on, okay, I have to do this, I have to finish this, I cannot do this, oh, my boss will say something now, so, or a difficult person will come, or they will, whatever, it's just about this I. When you come at home, you sitting with your family member, then the mind just releases, mind just relaxes, mind just expand. And why it is relaxing? Because it expanding its focus from oneself to others now, and also feeling very comfortable in the presence of that person who is not judging you. So this is how. So just imagine if you feel the same with all sentient beings. Why you feel so relaxed with that one person? Because you love that person so much. You wish that person should never be suffering, that person should be freed of suffering, because you wish, you wholeheartedly pray and wish that this person who is in my life should never have any suffering, be freed of suffering. In other words, you love the person so much. Because you love the person so much, therefore you feel so relaxed in the presence of that person. So the same psychology you can expand, that okay, if you can love all sentient beings, then wherever you go, you can feel that relaxation. So of course it is just, of course this is the fact, but at the same time, how to do that, right? How to love, how to feel compassionate towards, okay, fine, my near and dear one I can do, but how about the strangers? How about the difficult people who create problems? So then this is what Bodhisattva Shantideva taught in chapter number 8. This he taught as the, like, how to even cultivate love and affection towards difficult people. That is very difficult, but he said once you can do that, then nothing can disturb your mind. Because finally what disturbs your mind is somebody who is difficult. If you can learn to to make peace with the difficult person, then anywhere you go you will be happy, right? It's like a small child who is very very difficult, a small child who is very very naughty, right? Sometimes jumping here, jumping there, and saying something nasty all the time. That, although you're giving food, you're making tiffins, you are doing everything for the child, very small child, and the child is always saying something nasty. But because you see the child as very childlike, very small, very child, then it doesn't affect you. The words do not affect you. And also the child does nasty thing, it doesn't bother you the way it bothers when boss says something, right? Although both are saying the nasty words, right? Boss is also not punishing you with the, giving you some beatings or some, physical difficulty, but just words are used. Whereas, so just see the difference, that okay, when it comes from a child, we do not feel agitated, our mind is relaxed. Whereas when it comes from the boss, we are agitated, our mind is not at peace. So why? The words are same. The boss also says stupid, the child also says stupid, but when it comes from the child, it doesn't affect you. You may laugh, you may laugh, okay, small child, but with the boss it affects, right? So although word is same, and none of the word coming from the boss or child can create any physical pain in you, right? It cannot even create a rash on your body, right? So it just, but just see how our mind works. When it comes from a person like boss, then we feel agitated, whereas the same word comes from a small child, we are at peace, we are laughing, right? So where is the difference? Difference is not in the word, difference is not in the person, how you discern that word. So in the case of boss, you discern it, okay, he should not be saying he's the boss, he's mature. Whereas with the child, okay, that person is child, so I should not bother, he will do all these things. So now using this psychology, Bodhisattva Shantideva teaches how to even make peace with the presence of the difficult person. And this he called is the secret practice. because not everybody can do that, right? Even not everybody can think about it. Oh, why should I make peace with the difficult person? Not for the difficult person. Difficult person, you have to take all the measures to stop the negativities or the difficulties that he creates for you as much as possible. But finally, we have to learn how to make peace with these kind of people, because the world is full of difficult people, right? It's if we do not learn how to change our mind, how to feel happy, or how to feel at peace in every situation, then wherever we go, one difficult person will be there, right? So then when are we going to have peace of mind? So then this 8th chapter, Bodhisattva Shantideva teaches this nuanced psychology, and also chapter number 6, patience, that how to learn this psychological reasonings based on facts, not emotion, based on facts, and then change the discernment so that you don't have to force yourself to be happy. You will be happy wherever you go. So these are the, and then this will expand your mind to all sentient beings finally. And then more the mind expands, more happy, relaxed, and peaceful you feel. It's just always think about the example of how when you come back to a loving person who you like, how your mind just relaxes. So if the whole world becomes like that loving person for you from your side, some same amount of love is flowing, then wherever you go, same kind of relief, same kind of relaxation, same kind of peace can come to you. So this where Buddha said that one should practice great compassion, mahakaruna, and this will make sure that you learn, you practice all other profound teachings also, which will finally remove all the mental defilements to make you feel the fearlessness and infinite happiness. Let's read this once again. Bhagwan, bodhisattvas should not learn many teachings. If bodhisattvas grasp and know one teaching, they will have all the Buddha's teaching in the palm of their hand. What is that one thing? It is great compassion. Mahakaruna in Sanskrit. Okay. Okay, so today we may not do the meditation session. We'll go to the sevenfold division of mind directly. So as I mentioned in the last class, we'll be continuing that how these different sevenfold division of mind are there in our continuum, and our first job is to identify them by learning them. Of course, what we are teaching in 2 sessions is just an overview of this is very vast, and there are so many divisions to each of this category, and it's a beautiful journey if you can learn Buddhist psychology very systematically on the basis of the text written by great Nalanda masters, of course coming from Buddha Shakyamuni sutras like Abhidharma Samuchaya by Arya Sangha, then Abhidharma Kosh by Acharya Vasubandhu, then Bodhicharya Avatar by Bodhisattva Shantideva. That will give you the very clear picture of mind, our own mind, because finally everything depends on our own mind. Whether we are happy, not, only our mind decides, right? Even if the world is going through wars, difficulties, but if your mind is at peace, you can do wonders. But if the world is celebrating New Year, world is celebrating something great, and then your mind is not at peace, your mind is feeling low, then nothing matters, right? So finally it tells us that finally what is most important when it comes to you is your own mind. And then if we really scan our life, in a day, whatever we do, we from the when we in the morning when we get up, and then till the time we go to sleep, just sometime we should do this reflective exercise. What did I do in a day? Like, I woke up, then I brushed my teeth, then I did some exercise, I went to gym, or then I took breakfast, then I went to my office, I completed my job in time, and then I came back around 6 p.m. And then what did I do? I took some tea, then I watched some series or some movie, and then I talked to my family members, and then I ate my dinner, and then I did some whatever we do in our personal time, writing diary, reading something, or doing chatting with somebody, or even if you have anything like some exercise to do, and then I went back to sleep. So if we really see whatever we did, if we very objectively examine what we did, is all related to welfare of body, just body, right? Getting up, brushing your teeth, then going to job for what? So that we have our salary, we have our money in time. And money for what? So that I can buy food, I can have good shelter, I can have good clothes. So food for body, shelter for body, and the clothes also for body, right? So then the whole day and the life that we how we spent is 95% of that is just taking care of this body. But body is, of course, we have to take care of this body, but at the same time mind also decides many things. Not many things. In fact, if you really see some people, even if they are very sick, very difficult stage of their life because of any terminal illness, but if their mind is courageous, mind is stable, mind is at peace, it doesn't bother them too much. Whereas somebody has just cold or cough or fever, and then the person gets so agitated, and it disturbs the, not only disturbs one set, disturbs the entire family, that you did not give me medicine, you did not call me in time, you can't make the dinner in time. So you start to disturb everybody around you, your friend, your family member, your neighbors, your workplace people are also disturbed just because of cold. So then where is the difference? One person, even with the terminal illness, person is happy, and one person just with the cough and cold and fever gets into agitation. So the mind, how the mind reacts to that stimulus, so therefore mind is extremely important. So we have to take care of it, we have to take out some time to take care of it. Otherwise, as long as the body is young, we can manage, right? We can manage. And then even with the young, even in the, when you're very young, small things can really bother us, right? And nowadays we can see even with the youngsters, they come from a very good family, good universities, good courses, with so much of effort they get into. I every day my job is to even listen to my students, when they go through some difficulties. So they come from a good family, good educated family. Nobody is telling them what to do, what not to do. They have all the freedom. So money is not a problem, education is not a problem, because if they have reached the university in masters, they have put effort to crack the exam and come here. So even intelligence is not an issue. Still into depression. So where are we lacking? So where is the problem lying? So then I see is the that not knowing, lack of inquiry into the nature of mind, lack of understanding our own emotions, lack of skills to regulate our emotions. So therefore it's very important to study the nature of mind. And finally, to study this, first step is always to identify these minds within your own mind. Our job is not to identify in other people first. All the most of the time when we learn something about patience, about anger, about jealousy, we start to identify in other people. Yeah, my brother has jealousy, or yeah, my neighbor has anger, right? Yeah, this is what she was telling is in the class, this is called short temperedness. See, my neighbor will shout now. This is not our job, right? Because this is their job. Let's not do other people's job. We have so much to do for ourselves first, right? So our job is to identify these minds first in your mental continuum. And then once you know them so well, second step is to regulate them, transform them with the, now not only just mind, know how to transform this mind by changing the object of this mind. Let me repeat it. Once you know a little bit about the nature of your mind and you can identify these minds in your own mental continuum, after that, don't leave it there. You have to transform this mind to have happiness, to have the peace of mind. How to do that? You have to change the object of the mind, right? So for example, let's say if you look at the snake, you will have fear. So then because you fear snake, remove this snake with something which you feel happy about, like replace it with flower. So likewise, knowing this psychology, so once you know the nature of mind, identifying all this mind, you have to change the object of this mind. So now our job is to study the nature of object also. So the study of the nature of object is known as ontology, philosophy, epistemology. Particularly in Buddhist paradigm is the ontology and the philosophy, study of the ontology, study of the philosophy. What is the true nature of the object? What is the true reality of the object out there? There the emptiness will make sense. There we have to study emptiness. There we have to study relativity. There we have to study impermanence. There we have to study many other concepts. So both are very important. Subject, which is mind, known as study of the psychology. And then the object of that mind, which is the study of the philosophy, study of the ontology. So this is how we have to have the complete understanding of the mind and its object. So now first we are studying, the series is the nature of the mind. So now this is, as I said, there are different ways of classifying the mind, and one very comprehensive way of classifying all the cognitive mind is sevenfold division of mind. And as I mentioned in the last class also, even the structure of this sevenfold division is very, very interesting, that if you see from the bottom to the top, it is becoming, the mind is becoming more and more refined, right? From the deceptive it becomes doubting, then from doubting it is becoming correctly assuming, from correctly assuming it is becoming valid perceiver. So if you see from the deceptive, the one is the valid one, right? So this is how, if you first identify them, then our journey is to actually transform our mind from the seventh to the first one with respect to all the topics, all the objects, right? Whichever we interact with, it should right now problems are created because of the deceptive mind, wrong minds. So now our job is to change this mind to the direct valid perceiver, okay, through going through this 7 levels of mind. Okay, so the first one, direct, okay, direct valid perceiver. In Sanskrit it's pratyaksh, and then monsum in Tibetan. So how it is defined? So this is going to be little technical but not difficult. Just make sure that you learn, a little bit, because if you have these definitions, of course you have to learn in detail, but a little bit knowing these things will really help you to revise things later. And when the next series starts, then you can see that all this coming from the great Nalanda master's text. So first one, direct valid perceiver is defined. This, what is direct valid perceiver? So as I gave you the example, a mind which engages with its object directly, right? A mind which engages with its object directly. So in other words, it's a mind which is, first of all, it should be valid in nature. It should not be mistaken. It should be a valid mind. Number two, it should engage with its object directly, not conceptually. Okay, so there are two words we have to know. Number one, it should be non-mistaken. Number two, it should be non-conceptual. So for this we have to know what is conceptual mind. Okay, so let's say, how many of you have the experience of thinking, thinking anything in life? I think everyone, we all think, sometimes overthink, right? Sometimes we do overthinking. It's like already the boss has given work, we give us extra work. That overthinking, right? Person has said only that you do not know this, then we make a story around this. Oh, I don't know this, meaning I'm foolish. It means the person thinks I'm stupid. It means, he doesn't want me to be there. It means they are going to set me out. So all this story, person did not say this, and he is not even thinking about it. She is not even thinking. He may be doing party, right? And our mind is creating a story, right? So this agency, this mind which thinks, this is known as conceptual mind. Okay, conceptual mind. Okay, so let's try to see this conceptual mind. Just close your eyes and think of a flower, a red rose flower. Think of a red rose. Just close your eyes and think of a red rose. Okay, open your eyes now. Okay, tell me, how many of you could think of a red rose? Raise your hand. Okay, very good. So tell me, anybody, tell me what came to your mind. What will be your reply? Just unmute yourself and let me know. What came to your mind? When I asked you to think of red rose, what came to your mind? Anybody just unmute yourself and give me an answer.
A red rose.
A red rose. Who is this?
Renee.
Renee. Okay, thank you, Renee. Okay, how many of you agree with Renee? A red rose came. Okay, so the red rose came to your mind. So if you say, okay, let's say if you say red rose, then think about it very, very, just give a moment and think about it. Did the red rose came to my mind, or the image of the red rose came to your mind? What's your answer? Okay, anybody? Those who say yes, red rose does not come to my mind. If red rose is in my mind, I have to water it every day. So then I have to not water outside, I have to water on my head, right? So that's not the red rose. It's the image that came to my mind. Yes or no? Right? Because otherwise red rose may fit in, but if I say think of your elephant, you can think of an elephant also, right? But the elephant will not come to your mind, right? It's so big. So what comes to our mind is the image of that elephant. How many of you agree with this? Right? So this mind, you see, when I asked you to, but I did not ask you to think of image of the red rose. Yes or no? I asked you to think of the red rose. But what came to your mind is image of the red rose. And your answer was red rose, right? So do you agree with me that all the thinking mind, whenever you think about that object only through the image of that object. Without the image coming to your mind, you cannot think of that object. Raise your hand, those who agree with this. And if you don't agree with one example, you can take other example. Let's say think of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, right? Okay, think of it. Think of him. Okay, now tell me, raise your hand, those who said, yes, Dalai Lama came to my mind. Or image of the Dalai Lama came to my mind. Very good. So now, although I asked you to think of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, but what came to your mind is image of the His Holiness Dalai Lama. And this is what we say that, okay, I thought of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Yes, agree with me or not? Right? So this tells us a fact, a reality, that whenever we think of something, we cannot think of that object directly. We have to think of that object by using the image of that object. Agreed? Raise your hand. So this is the meaning of conceptual minds. All the thinking minds are always conceptual in nature. In other words, conceptual mind meaning a mind which knows its object through the image of that object, not directly, through using the image of that object. Okay, so this image of the object, technically, in technical psychological terms, it is known as generic image. Generic image, in Sanskrit, Arth Samanya, and in Tibetan, it's known as Dyunchi, right? So this mind, which uses an image or generic image of the object to know the object, this is known as conceptual mind, right? So now direct valid perceiver should not be conceptual. It should not be using the image of the object. It should know the object directly. For example, how many of you are seeing this screen? Okay, some of you are using laptop, some may be using mobile, and some are watching, in Milindala's house together, sitting together. So all of you can see some screen, right? So you don't have to see this screen by creating, you don't have to think about the screen. Yes, you are seeing the screen directly through your eye consciousness, right? Through your eye consciousness, you directly see the screen. You don't have to think of the screen and then only you see, right? So this mind, which doesn't have to think of the object, but sees the object directly without using the image of the object, is known as non-conceptual mind, direct mind. Got it now? So the direct valid perceiver, the first mind that we have, it should have two attributes, two qualities. Number one, it should be valid. It should not be mistaken. Number two, it should be non-conceptual. It should know its object directly. So what example do we have? All the sensory consciousnesses, like your eye consciousness, which sees the visual object. Then your ear consciousness, which hear the sounds, like I'm speaking and you can hear me. So your ear consciousness, then your nose consciousness which smells, then your tongue consciousness which taste, and then your body consciousness which feels. These are all the example of the direct minds. But these direct minds can be wrong and can be correct. But this category is talking about only the valid one, the correct one, right? Which are not mistaken with respect to the appearance of the object. Okay, so the mind which are not mistaken, which are not wrong with respect to the appearance of the object. So in other words, the direct valid perceiver is a mind which is non-mistaken plus engages with its object directly without using the image of that object, without using the generic image of that object. So this is the first mind known as pratyaksh, right? Known as pratyaksh. So this is our goal. This is our goal with respect to all the objects. All the objects, this should be the mind that we should be having. First of all, it should not be incorrect. It should be non-mistaken, meaning it should not be mistaken, wrong with respect to how the object appearing to your mind. Number two, it should be freed of conceptuality, meaning it should not use the image to get to the object. Okay. And as I said, what examples do we have? Then we have many examples. Okay, so this conceptual mind slide I will share. What we discussed is here. And then these are the example of the non-conceptual mind. 5 sensory consciousnesses and 1 mental consciousness. So 5 sensory consciousnesses are always direct. They are never conceptual. They never use the, they never think, right? They engages with the object directly without using the image while for thinking about that object. Okay, and then another one is mental consciousness. So in the Buddhist psychology, the mind is divided into 6 primary minds. 6 primary minds, 5 sensory consciousnesses, which we just counted, and then 1 is mental stream, continuum of the mental stream. For example, the thinking minds. This is a mental consciousness. So likewise, within the mental consciousness, there are 2. 1 is the direct and 1 is conceptual. One is non-conceptual, 1 is conceptual. So the non-conceptual one also falls in this category. Okay, and it will come next. Okay, then. Okay. Then we see the next one, which is the inferential cognizer. In Sanskrit, it is known as Anuman. Inferential cognizer. In Sanskrit is Anuman. In Tibetan, Jebak. Jebak. So this is again a valid mind. Okay, so don't worry about the definition of it. It is little technical. As long as you can understand the meaning, that's good enough. So inferential cognition is the, first of all, it's a valid, okay, within the, for example, let's say inference. Last time I gave the example, let's say if you see the smoke coming out of a house, right? Smoke coming out of your neighbor's house, so much of smoke coming out of it. And then how many of you can be very sure that there must be fire inside, right? There must be fire inside, raise your hand, right? And then how many of you agree that you have not seen the fire, right? You have not seen the fire, but you can be very sure that there must be a fire. So this mind which knows the presence of fire by using the reason, on the basis of a reason, is known as inferential mind. Inferential mind, right? Infers, right? This mind is inferring, right? And how many of you agree with me that inference can be correct and incorrect? How many of you agree with me that inference can be correct as well as incorrect, right? For example, let's say somebody sees a person, giving food to the dog or giving food to some insects or some, animals. And then you infer that, okay, this person is so compassionate, right? This person is so compassionate, so kind. And yes, sometimes we do. And then you realize that actually this person was giving stale food to the dog, right? Stale food. Then you realize, oh, he's not very compassionate. He's just, getting rid of the food, right? So this is how inference, what you just saw some action and you inferred what is going on in the mind of the person. So that inference can be correct incorrect, right? So this inference, the second one, is actually the valid one. Here in this category, the inference included is the valid inference, not the wrong one. This second one, the wrong one will come in the seventh one. Okay, so this for second one, all the inferences included in this is known as the valid inferential cognizer, meaning the valid inferential cognizer. In other words, a mind which validly infers an object on the basis of a correct sign or reason. Okay, so that is the second one, known as inference. So again, inference is really very important mind. In fact, I must share with you, the time is little, just limited. Otherwise, in Buddhist logic, if you study sometime Buddhist praman, it's a vast field. People do a lot of research, and in fact, not only Buddhist logic, before even Buddha Shakyamuni, the Indian tradition, and of course in West, the logic developed a lot, right? Like Hegel's dialectics. So likewise here in East, the Indian dialectics is very, very famous. And before Buddha Shakyamuni also, there was Naya tradition, which has the tradition of logic and debate, and also this cognition, mind, everything. So now after Buddha Shakyamuni, so then Buddha Shakyamuni said very important thing. He said there are two ways of, let's say, there are two ways of acquiring correct information. Let me repeat it. There are two ways of acquiring correct information. One is the direct mind, known as pratyaksh, and another one is inferential mind. It's not only on the basis of direct mind you can acquire correct information. Even on the basis of the inferential mind, you can acquire correct information. So these are known as two praman in Buddhist epistemology. So in Buddhist epistemology, two kinds of valid cognitions are accepted. One is the direct, where your mind directly and validly knows the object, the first category. And Buddha said even there is a second category which is known as inferential valid cognizers, where you infer, although you are inferring, you are not directly seeing it, but the information that you get is correct, right? So because there were traditions where they said that, okay, there is only one way to acquire correct information, which should be direct, meaning seeing is believing. If you cannot see that, if you cannot directly realize that fact, then it's not a fact. So then Buddha very clearly mentioned, no, there are two ways of getting to facts. One is the direct, one is the inferential, and both are very important. Of course, the direct one is very powerful, but inferential is also very important for us to grow from a basic understanding to a richer understanding. So this is known as two praman, or two valid cognitions accepted in the Buddhist epistemology. Okay, next. And of course, there are types of inferential cognizer. Then next is a subsequent cognizer. So what is a subsequent cognizer? As the name says, in Sanskrit parichinna gyan and in Tibetan cheshe. So it's the first one, what is the direct valid cognizer, and the second one is inferential cognizer, right? So what is the direct one? Let's say we take the example of eye consciousness. Ready? So let's say the eye consciousness, which is looking at this screen where you see the slides, right? So let's say for 5 moments you keep looking at the slide, right? Without thinking about anything else. You just keep looking at the slide for 5 moments, 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the first moment is known as valid cognition, and the second one is known as subsequent. Second moment and down are known as subsequent cognizer. Got it now? So the first moment of the eye consciousness, which correctly gets the information about the screen, that first, out of the 5 moments, the first moment is given the label of valid cognition, and the second moment and down, they are known as subsequent cognizer. And likewise, inferential cognizer, which we learned, let's say a mind which infers fire on the basis of the smoke, and that infers it for 5 seconds. So the first moment is known as valid cognition, and second moment and down is known as subsequent cognizers, primary and subsequent cognizer. So subsequent cognizer is nothing but the second moment and down of the first two categories, direct valid perceiver and inferential cognizer, they have different moments. So the second moment and down of these first two mind is known as subsequent cognizer. As simple as that. Clear now? Okay, next. Correctly assuming consciousness. This is also very interesting. Correctly assuming consciousness, as the name suggests, in Sanskrit is known as Manaha Pariksha. Manaha Pariksha, in Tibetan Yiche. Yiche. So what is being said here is, let's say, how many of us have the experience of assuming things all day, right? We assume things, right? Somebody says, okay, you are looking very nice, right? And just the person said to make you happy, and then you start to assume that, okay, I must be looking very nice, right? So this assumption, right? Assumption. So again, assumptions can be correct and incorrect. Raise your hand those who agree with me, right? That assumptions can be correct and incorrect. So this category includes the correct one, correctly assuming minds, not the incorrect one, right? It's the correct assumption. So for example, an assumption is the activity of mental consciousness. This we have to know. Our eyes do not assume, our ears do not assume, all the sensory, they do not assume, they pass the data. The job of the sensory consciousnesses are like the cameras, right? They click whatever is there, right? And then when the pictures come, then the family sits together and the friends sits together and they say, oh, you are looking very fat, right? Oh, you are looking very nice. So then the processing happens, right? So the processing is done by your mental consciousness. So this assumption is the processing done by your mental consciousness, right? And this assumption, but is not the wrong one, it's the correct assumption about anything, right? About anything your mind is correctly assuming, right? That category of mind is known as correctly assuming consciousness or correct assumption. Okay, next. Okay, this is very interesting category, non-discerning direct perceiver, and I use this category to sometime, tease my students in the class. So non-discerning direct perceiver in Sanskrit is known as Aniyata Pratibhas, and in Tibetan Nangla Mangepa. So I'll tell them that, okay, this, you say, if other classification of mind, you can say that, okay, I did not understand, or I understood only half, but this one you have the experience, so they become very excited. Oh, this is, what is this? So non-discerning direct perceiver is like, for example, let's say, when you are in the class teaching and you see that one of the student in the front row gazing at you, right? Gazing at you, and you think that, okay, the student is listening to you very, very attentively, right? If somebody is, you are speaking, like, I cannot figure out from the screen here, but in the class I can figure out, right, who is listening, who is not listening. So then, I say, and then actually the person is gazing at you, but the mind has taken flight already. The student is thinking about, okay, I have laundry to do, I have hostel fee to pay, I have to go to shopping, or we have a movie show together, right? So the mind has, or mental consciousness has already taken flight, but the eye consciousness is gazing at the person, gazing at the teacher, right? So then they all agree, yes, yes, this happens. So this is where it's known as non-discerning direct perceiver, that the sensory consciousnesses are directly coming in contact with the object, but the mind is not discerning that information, right? So for example, how many of us have that experience, that, okay, you are listening to the music or you're watching a movie, and then somebody passes by and says something important also, that you have to, you have to submit this bill, or you have to do this work. And then after the movie finishes or after the music finishes, then you say, oh, you were saying something. He said, yes, but you were looking at me. So although your mind came in contact with the person, and also you heard what the person said, but you don't know what it is, your mind did not register the information, right? So that category of mind, where although the object appears to your mind very clearly, but your mind, the mental consciousness, does not register the information, these are known as non-discerning direct perceiver, right? Non-discerning direct perceiver, where you don't discern what has appeared to you very clearly. Okay, so for example, all the examples, like when you hear the music, and then somebody passes by, somebody waves at you, and then The person thinks that you are very rude. Actually, you are not rude. Your mind is totally engrossed in music, so does not register the information, right? So although the person came in contact with you, right, and then actually you were looking at the person, but you didn't, later on you don't remember who that person was, because you could not register, could not discern it, right? So this is known as, this category of minds is known as non-discerning direct perceivers. Okay, then the doubting consciousnesses. Doubting consciousnesses, although doubt is appear to be very very wrong all the time, but it's not wrong. Again, the doubt can be afflictive and non-afflictive. This we have to know, right? For example, even in the treatises, in the text, it is said, even having a doubt regarding concept like emptiness. Oh, what is emptiness? Whenever I attend a teaching, she's talking about emptiness. Finally, we have to know what emptiness is. So, what is this emptiness like? Everybody, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, any teaching, even if he's giving teaching on Tantra, he's giving teaching on universal love and compassion, he's talking about the environment. He ends with that, okay, if you want to end the suffering, if you want to stop the tears of your life, you have to study emptiness. You have to meditate on emptiness. So what is this emptiness like? What is this emptiness, right? So this is a constructive doubt. This is not an afflictive doubt. This is a very constructive doubt, because this doubt will connect you with the proper study. That, okay, I must know, at least I should know what it is, right? I don't know, I don't accept, I don't reject also, but I'm totally doubtful, right? What it is it true that if you meditate on emptiness, all your fears will, Buddha said, all your fears will dissolve if you have the experience of emptiness. So is it true? I don't know, I don't think so. But it's a very constructive doubt which connects you with the study, reflection, and further going deeper into the concept, right? So whereas some doubt are very afflictive, right? Although the right information is given to you, but you keep doubting that, okay, I doubt it. I doubt that, if you eat food, your hunger will go away. I doubt that, if you talk nicely to people, they will like you. I doubt all the time. It's going in it's tilting to the wrong side. It's tilting to the wrong side. For example, your body. I doubt my body is impermanent. I doubt, right? Although it's changing, but I doubt my body is impermanent. It seems to be permanent. So the doubt which is tilting toward the non-fact is one, and the doubt which is tilting towards the fact, this is very positive, right? This is very positive. And then there is a doubt which tilts towards both, equally. Sometimes, okay, yes, it may be true or it may not be true, right? So doubt, again, there are three categories: doubt which tilts towards the fact, doubt that tilts towards the non-fact, and the doubt which tilts towards both equally. Okay, in general, doubt is a mind. How the doubt is defined: a mind which has qualm in two direction, not decisive. You have qualm in two direction. Oh, maybe it's nice, maybe it's not nice. So your mind having qualm in two direction, not very decisive. That is the general meaning of doubt. And then within that doubt, there can be some doubt which are tilting more towards the fact. So this will make you grow. And there is a doubt which is tilting more towards the non-fact. Yeah, I doubt I'm impermanent. I think I'm permanent, right? I think I'm permanent. For sure I'm permanent. So you are tilting towards the non-fact. And there is a doubt where it is tilting towards both equally. Okay, so these are the three categories of doubt. And then the final is the deceptive consciousness. So this is the last one. So most of the time, what, finally, the root of samsara, the root of all the pains and suffering, Buddha identified is the deceptive mind. And one particular deceptive mind is known as self-grasping ignorance. Self-grasping ignorance. Ignorance, in other words, ignorance is the cause of all the fears, anxieties, pains, stress that we dislike. And the wisdom, which is the direct valid perceiver, that is the ground for all the opposite of that, which is happiness, peace of mind, courage, fearlessness, and full of compassion for all sentient beings. So now this deceptive mind, what is the definition in Sanskrit? Viparya Gyan, and in Tibetan Lokshe. So what is the meaning of it? So deceptive mind, in other words, is defined as a mind Okay, let me show it to you. This is simple. Deceptive mind is a mind which is mistaken with respect to its object of engagement. In other words, the object that your mind is engaging with, it is mistaken with respect to it, right? It's not correct, but it is mistaken. It is wrong with respect to the object of its engagement. The mind is engaging with something, and that engagement is mistaken, right? For example, let's say, how many of you have that experience that, okay, you enter the room, and then, although it's just a rope, and then you mistake it because it's by mistake step on it and starts to move, and then you think, oh, it's a snake, right? So it's just a rope, right? But your mind mistake it for rope. So this, although it's just a rope, but your mind engage it with mistakenly, right? You're mistaken with respect to engaging with the rope as rope. You see the rope as snake. So this mind is known as deceptive mind. Deceptive mind. And again, within the deceptive mind, there can be both direct as well as inference. Direct deceptive minds are there, and also inferential deceptive minds are there. For example, let's say you see the smoke coming out of a house, and you infer, oh, there must be water, you know so then that is a deceptive inference, right? It's an inference, right? Oh, smoke is coming out of the house, or therefore there must be water in the house. So although it's a inference, but it's a deceptive inference. And likewise, when your eye consciousness sees the rope as snake, that is a direct mind, but a deceptive direct mind, right? So now this category we have to know. Finally, as I said, within this category, big category of deceptive mind, there is one deceptive mind which is the cause of all the pains, known as self-grasping ignorance, and to make it even more rich, the self-centered attitude. Okay, self-centered attitude and self-grasping ignorance. Self-grasping ignorance, Buddha identified as the worst of the deceptive mind, which is at the core of all the pains and the fears of life. So this, because it's an ignorance, therefore we need to cultivate the direct valid perceiver. And one of the most refined direct valid perceiver is the direct valid perceiver of wisdom of emptiness. Direct valid perceiver which realizes emptiness, right? So therefore the journey is to go from the self-grasping ignorance, which is a deceptive mind, seven mind, to the cultivating of the direct valid perceiver of seeing emptiness. And then on the other side, from the self-centered attitude that, okay, I'm more important than others, right? This is a deceptive mind. By no means we are more important than others. We are equally important, right? We are all equally important. We are not less important also. We are all equally important. But the selfishness comes from the deceptive thinking that I am more important than other. This creates all the narrowness of the mind and again pains, right? So therefore this should also be changed by the other cherishing mind. And this we also have to learn, the mind of bodhicitta, mahakaruna, compassion, altruism, loving kindness. All these minds we have to learn. This are fall under the category of the valid minds. May not be direct, but the valid minds. Okay, so this is the journey that we have to take on the basis of sevenfold division of mind. Finally, okay, and then as I shared in the last class also, these are the references for somebody to go deeper into Buddhist psychology. The text written by Arya Sangha, Acharya Vasubandhu, Acharya Digna, Bodhisattva Shantideva, and then Acharya Chandrakirti, and finally exposition of emptiness. We must study the one in the top, Arya Nagarjuna's Mool Madhyamika Karika. And to begin with, if you want to go deeper into the psychology, start reading the book on the right. Okay, yes, the Science and Philosophy, Indian Buddhist classic, the mind, volume number, I think it's 2. Okay, so this is available, conceived by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, compiled by greatly learned and practitioner Geshe. Okay, so I think on that note we stop, and if we have 1 or 2 questions, we can take them if the time allows. Nobula.
Thank you, Venerable Allah, for these precious teachings. This concludes the 8-week series, but please join us next week for the beautiful teachings on psychology of training the mind again, where we will go through the reflections on developing resilience, fortitude, and patience using the Bodhicitta Avatara guide for Bodhisattva way of life to get to the direct valid perception that we all desire, I think, right? Venerable La? So also, please, once again, if anyone would love to make a donation to support the Force of Wisdom, this would be very beneficial for the practitioners, the lay practitioners, and all the Sangha. We would really appreciate a donation. Also, Geshe-ma, well, will be arriving there, I believe, in March. So it would be very helpful for Force of Wisdom and Geshe-ma, as she is the first Geshe-ma to be teaching in the United States. So that's a very, very fortunate for all people in the United States and everywhere in the world. Now, for anyone would like to stay, there's a question and answer with Venerable La here for another 30 minutes if she would like. And Force of Wisdom in person have a list of discussion questions that you can use to start off your discussion there. Thank you so much.
Shimul, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Venerable Pooja. I wanted to ask on what occasion did Buddha Shakyamuni indicate that inferential cognizer is a valid mind?
Okay, this is a good question. Not occasion, many sutras. In fact, there is so if we study now deeper, so there is a Charvakas tradition, Indian philosophical tradition, they believe only in one valid cognition, that direct valid cognition. In other words, so therefore they don't believe even in the concept of rebirth, because if you cannot see, you can't believe, right? So therefore they had only one acceptance of one kind of valid cognition. In other words, one type of mind which can acquire the correct information. Whereas Buddha, not only Buddha, in fact in other tradition also, like in Samkhya, there is a mention of the three valid cognitions, but Buddha very clearly mentioned that the two ways, or the two ways of acquiring correct factual information is known as two kinds of praman. So in Buddhism, this very famous epistemological study, that the praman is of two type. Praman is of two type. One praman meaning valid cognition is of two type. One is the direct valid cognition, and the other one is inferential cognition. And in many sutras, Buddha did give the example of inferential valid cognition. For example, he mentioned about the bodhisattva's realization. He said that, okay, how do you infer that somebody is a great, highly realized bodhisattva? So in fact, there are two examples given. I may share one. So within the category of this, that, okay, sign or reason. So Buddha very clearly mentioned, let's say, somebody hearing about emptiness and somebody hearing about universal compassion, has stable signs of, feeling very joyous. Whenever somebody is talking about emptiness and talking about, okay, we should take care of the world, we should cultivate great compassion, and then the person feels immense joy, and also, the eyes are being moistened because of that joy, that, okay, yes, there is something which is talking about taking care of the entire world, great compassion. And also there is somebody talking about how we engage with the reality deceptively. We should engage with the reality knowing the true nature, which is emptiness, like shunyata, right? And then knowing these things, the person feels utter joy. Whenever there is a mention of the taking care of others and studying the reality, meditating on reality, so these are and that too a very stable sign. Over a period of stable sign, you see this sign, recurring sign in the person, then you can infer that the person has a great realizations of great compassion from the past life. And also you can stably see that the person has these imprints for these practices. So these are the signs that the Buddha is saying, these are the valid signs to infer about somebody being realized in those areas, right? So this, from there you can know that, okay, Buddha is mentioning that the correct information can be acquired from in two ways. One is the direct, right? Directly you see the screen, and then nobody can, even if somebody says, no, what you are seeing is not screen, it is actually banana, so you will not accept it, right? Because it's your direct experience. But at the same time, even inference can be a very, very, it's a direct, is a source of acquiring valid information. And then later on, Acharya Dignag in his text Pramana Samuchaya, on the basis of the sutra, citing the sutras, he wrote about this two Praman. This text Praman Samuchaya, the compendium of valid cognition, it's about the two. It has many chapters, but mainly explaining the two kinds of valid cognition. Okay, Shimullah, thank you. Any more questions? Any more questions? Anybody had? So do we have any like possibility to take questions from the room where everybody is sitting together? Like it's not possible, or is it? I'm just curious to know that is it a possible for them to speak through there, or is it not possible? I'm just curious to know, or they can only just listen.
I think they can. Melinda Law is doing it right now. I think I'm muting.
Hi, yes. Can you hear us? Oh, what is this?
Okay, so
Wait a
that's
second.
good.
Okay.
So I was just
Hi.
thinking, it's
Yes,
just
we can hear you. And actually, I do have a question.
please.
So, it's regarding the deceptive minds. Hold on. Actually, talk to the computer. So the deceptive minds. So we can have so I'm assuming, and I don't know if this is correct, that if I always have a deceptive mind because I don't understand. I have information about it, but I don't directly perceive how much self-grasping I have, so that every moment I have a deceptive mind in a way. But at other times, I can use my valid cognition happens, or I infer, that there's a fire because there's smoke. So I'm saying, can you have several minds at the same time from that list?
Okay, thank you so much, Melindala. Thank you so much. This is another brilliant question. So yes, it's like simultaneous. It's not okay. We have to learn like deceptive mind with respect to what, right? So for example, let's say the mind which infers, like inferential valid cognition, a mind which infers the fire from the presence of the smoke. So it's a valid cognition, right? Valid cognition. So what Melinda has asked is a very nuanced question. So this is discussed, in advanced psychology. So I'm glad these questions are coming. So we are ready for the second series. So now, so then inferential valid cognition is where you engage with the object correctly, right? So meaning you know the presence of the fire from the presence of the smoke. So it's a valid inference. So your mind engaging with the object correctly, this is one fact. Now at the same time, this mind has another fact also, that this mind, the appearance of the object, so for this we have to learn emptiness, right? So although conventionally speaking, this is a correct mind, this is a valid inferential cognizer. So with respect to fire, it is not mistaken, or it is not deceptive, it is correct. And then there is another error happening, that okay, this fire appears to your mind objectively real. Okay, let me repeat it. This fire appears to your mind intrinsically real, so not as empty of intrinsic nature. So there where, self-grasping ignorance is also there. The element of the self-grasping ignorance is there. So although you can have very valid minds, like for example, you seeing the screen, it's a valid mind. But at the same time, this screen appears to your mind as objectively real. This is a very subtler level of mistake happening at the appearance level. So that is known as where the mistake is happening at the appearance, but not at the engagement level. Engagement level, you're seeing the fire, and you're seeing the fire as fire, not as snake, right? You are inferring the correct thing. So the engagement with respect to fire is correct. But then if somebody asks you, do you see this fire as objectively real, or do you see this fire as imputed by your mind? You will say it's objectively real. So there where Madhyamika school, you will learn later that how this is the mistaken mind. We have to learn that how things do not exist objectively, absolutely. They exist by mere dependence, right? So that error is still there, right? So you have to see the object. If you say with respect to fire, you are valid. But with respect to seeing the fire as objectively real, then there is a mistake happening. Okay, there is a mistake happening. So the same mind has two elements, so that is possible. So all the valid minds are there. So the lower school will say, yes, it's a valid mind and there is no mistake happening. But then the Prasangika will come, the highest Buddhist school, and will say, although this is a valid mind, but there is a subtler level of mistake happening where you see, although, like for example, let's say like eye consciousness, seeing the screen. This is valid mind. You see the screen as screen. But at the same time, what is the wrong there is that you see the screen as objectively real. While the screen exists dependently, you see this as absolutely real, right? Absolutely from its own side. So this is where another level of mistake is happening. So when somebody says with respect to screen, you have a valid cognition. But with respect to seeing the screen as absolute, as objectively real, that is a mistaken mind. So the same mind has the two different object in terms of just the screen or screen as absolute or objective. So this is known as, the second one is known as self-grasping ignorance, and the first one is a valid mind. So object changes because the aspect of the object is changing at a subtle level. Okay, so this we have to learn. Thank you, Melindala. Thank you for
Thank
this.
you. Thank you, Venerable.
Okay, anyone else? So as I mentioned, as Shamula asked, finally this is to know where am I, right? Where am I? We have to go from the very basic to the level of correct mind, so that we know that okay, where do I stand when it comes to my happiness, right? What kind of mind do I have? And finally use this information to transform this mind to valid mind, so that we become happier and can export this happiness to others also. Okay, so if no questions, should we do the dedication, Nobula? Okay, Nobula here.
I had a really quick question regarding the five sense consciousness, right? So when we engage with the object with direct perception, right? And I mean, emptiness, there's no sense consciousness, right? They all fade away and you only have a mental consciousness left, right? But in another aspect, in like Vajrayana studies, they say that you have a Vajra body, so you can actually use the body and then have your pure perception with your senses all intact and still have direct perception, right? So that's my question regarding that stage, like the illusory body with your all your senses intact.
So as you said, Nobula, again, this question needs a lot of information, right? And then
Right.
the counter information others may not know, so don't worry about it. I'm just trying to answer what I know.
Okay.
From my Nobula. Okay, so basically the in the Tantra studies where there is a mention of the purifying your perception, right? Transforming your perception, even what you see, how you see, right? And whatever appears to you in the form of visual objects, in the form of sounds, in the form of touch, in the form of taste, everything should trigger happiness in you, joy in you, and should not be able to create any kind of agitation in you, right? Any kind of distress or disturbance in you. So it's in a way purifying through your visualization practices, purifying your perception of the sensory objects, right? So now, but the emptiness, as you said, this is a fact. We have to know emptiness is always realized through mental consciousness, right? Your mental consciousness at our level, it's always, and then it can be inferential first and then direct, but both are mental, yogic direct perceiver, right? So now this is very different than visual objects being perceived, in the pure form. So there is a deliberate attempt happening in your visualization practices. You're training yourself to try to first, through your thinking, actually, This will not work without emptiness understanding, right? Only when you have some understanding of emptiness through your mental consciousness, then you know that all these objects intrinsically they are not there, right? So finally they are mentally imputed. So finally your mind decides the perception, right? And then with that conviction, then you can purify your perception of the senses. So it's not that the emptiness is being perceived of those objects. The perception, the sensory perception of those objects is being purified because of your conviction of the mental consciousness in the emptiness and many other aspects of the path. So that will help. Therefore, it is said, even in the tantric practices, the ground is this bodhicitta and the wisdom of emptiness. Without wisdom of emptiness, tantra is far away. So that'll be my simple understanding. And of course, it's a very profound topic, and I'm not even qualified to talk about this. But thank you for this question.
No, it clarifies a lot, because when you're studying both, it's you get confused a little bit because it's so technical, and you don't want to make the wrong mistake and have the wrong view, because it will take you the wrong place. So thank you. That really clarified a lot for me. Thank you.
But when I study, like for tantra especially, like whichever I listen, I come to realization that Nalanda masters and like Buddha's teaching, of course, Tantra is taught by Buddha, and then how Nalanda masters explained psychology. There is no contradiction. Finally, this understanding should come, that
Yeah.
this should not contradict that, and that should not contradict this. They should go hand in hand. If this is
Right.
happening, Tantra understanding is also becoming deeper and profound. Otherwise, this is, going away because you cannot explain this on that, then somewhere that is also shaky. That is also very
Correct.
There should be no contradiction. In fact,
It was my ignorance, nothing to do with the teachings at all. It's just my understanding. But I know for a fact that these teachings are precious. It's our perception, our understanding, and clarification with teachers like yourself to clarify the questions.
very precious that the way you are learning, because people actually, this is unfortunate that people keep the two things separate. Okay, this is my practice tantra and this is my study. No, finally, as you asked, this tells a lot about your rich reflection, that they can be brought together, and not only can be, they are together. So that slowly, if you only have these questions and reflection, then it will become clearer. So this is very precious. Okay,
Thank you, Venerable.
so we dedicate the merit.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone. So I'll say two verses together. As I mentioned, that the two very important things we have to learn is through this sevenfold division is to come to the cultivation of wisdom of emptiness and cultivation of bodhicitta, the mind of universal love and compassion. Okay, so I'll say the prayer that may these two minds soon dawn in us, and in those who have already cultivated them, may they keep growing and may they keep enhancing. Okay, may the supreme bodhicitta, which has not a reason, arise and grow, and may which has a reason not diminished but increase forevermore. Chanchu semcho rinpoche ma ke panam ke gurche kewa nyampa me payang kone khungdu pelvarsho. May the supreme wisdom of emptiness, may the precious wisdom of emptiness, which has not a reason, arise and grow, and may which has a reason not diminish but increase forevermore. Tongni tawa rinpoche ma ke panam ke gurche kewa nyampa me payang khongne khongdu pelvarsho. Thank you everyone. It was such a joy to interact with every one of you and see you through the screen. Hope to meet you soon in person also. And of course, as Nobula said, we are all very lucky that Keshama is going to join there very soon. It's very, very rare to have such a highly qualified teacher who has learned Buddhist psychology, Buddhist studies so systematically and practicing it, to be there in totally different environment, to just with the sheer intention to share it with others. So we should all rejoice in our merit, and also let's see you in the next series. Thank you so much.
Venerable Law, will you be in Rajgir around April in that time? Okay, I'm traveling to India next Thursday, so I'll be there for a few months. So I'll be coming up there. I'll get in touch with you.
Yes, thank you. That will be wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And I can see my friends here. Nicola is there. Of course, Norbula I know, and also Shambula. And Melindala, thank you so much for coordinating it and organizing everything so well. Thank you so much. Thank you, Norbula, once again. And thank you, everyone.
Accept them. Yes, again, please.